Here we'll see how to solve a rational equation. Let's look at our helpful hint. Factor the denominators. Find the LCD. Multiply each fraction on both sides of the equation by the LCD. The resulting equation should not contain any fractions. Simplify and solve for the variable. Here's our rational equation that we want to solve. And the first thing we need to do is find our LCD. So I'm going to do that by factoring each denominator. The first denominator, 2y plus 4, I can take a 2 out and write that denominator as 2 times y plus 2. And as I factor the denominators, I'm going to cross out the original. We'll be using the factored form as we proceed. For the 6, I can write that as 2 times 3. It's prime factors. And for 3y plus 6, I can factor a 3 out and write that as 3 times y plus 2. Now that I've factored the denominators, I'm going to find the LCD. When I go to find my LCD, I want to look at how each denominator got factored and look at the different factors that I have. I've got factors of 2, factors of 3, and factors of y plus 2. For my factors of 2, I've got one factor here, one factor in this denominator, and no factors here. The most number of times I see it in any one denominator is just once. So I need one factor of 2 in the LCD. For the 3, I've got no factors here, one here, and again, the most number of times I see it is just once in any one denominator. Same goes for the y plus 2. I've got one factor here, none here, one here. The most number of times I see it is once in any one denominator. So our LCD is 2 times 3 times y plus 2. Now that I've found the LCD, I'm going to multiply both sides of the equation by it. And notice on the left, when I go and multiply through by the LCD, I'll need to distribute. When I take the LCD times the first fraction, my 2 and my y plus 2 both divide out, leaving me with 3 times 1. When I take the LCD times the second fraction, the 2 and the 3 both divide out, leaving me with y plus 2 times 1, which is y plus 2. And on the right side of the equation, when I multiply the LCD times this fraction, my 3 and my y plus 2 both divide out, leaving me with a 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Now I've got a linear equation that I can solve. This minus sign in front of the parentheses carries through both terms. Now I can simplify here. 3 minus 2 is 1. And I'm going to subtract 1. And I end up with negative y equals negative 5. And here, if I divide both sides by negative 1, I'll have positive y equals 5. Now let's check that solution. Now we're going to check our solution, y equals 5, which means putting 5 in for the y variables in our equation to see if we get a true statement. So replacing the 5 here, I'll have 2 times 5 minus 1/6 equals negative 2 over, this will be 3 times 5 plus 6. Simplifying this denominator, 2 times 5 is 10, plus 4 is 14. And on the right, in the denominator, we have 3 times 5 plus 6 is 15 plus 6, or 21. And I'm going to write a question mark above these equal signs. We don't know if they're equal yet. Over on the left, I need to take 1/14 minus 1/6. In order to do that, I need to find an LCD, and the LCD of 14 and 6 is 42. So rewriting both fractions with 42 in the denominator, 14 times 3 gives me 42, so I multiply the numerator by 3, get 3. 6 times 7 gives me 42. Multiplying the numerator by 7, I have 7. Does this equal negative 2 over 21? Well, if I combine the fractions here, 3 minus 7 over 42 is negative 4 over 42. Does that equal negative 2 over 21? Well, if I simplify it, it does. I can divide 2 into 4 and 42 to simplify the fraction. And finally, I get this true statement. Negative 2 over 21 equals itself. So our solution of y equals 5 checks, so we know it's correct. Remember, when solving a rational equation, find the LCD of all denominators and multiply both sides by it. This will give you an easier equation to solve.